Welcome back to Beyond the Classroom, LCCC's podcast about outreach and workforce development. And today we're going to pull back the curtain on how our team interacts with the workforce community. And we're going to talk again with Dave Curry from the Advanced Manufacturing and Materials Center, the AMMC.
Very well said.
It's quite a tongue twister
It is.
sometimes. So, Dave, how does LCCC, and specifically, you can either talk broadly as far as OWD, or you can talk specifically about your team. How do you guys engage with local employers?
Local employers they're really part of the team. When you talk about employees and, well, that's LCCC and that's their management style. That's how they interact and do things on their campus. And it's not just us, but really any career tech ed program, any outreach workforce development program we put out. We're not on an island. We're not out there by ourselves and say, man, I hope I get this right. Because if we were to do that, we're going to miss something. We're not going to meet the needs. And that's one of the things we have to remember is we are here to meet the needs of the community. And if we don't keep them involved, then we're never going to know if we're doing what we need to. So even in the construction of the AMMC, we started our remodel in 2022. That's when all the auto body equipment came out. That's when it was stripped down to bare walls and we started over again. Okay, well, that was 2022. The discussions probably started in 2020. And if I talk to some of my industry partners, they'll tell me it started way before that. And they did. The conversations for the AMMC started probably 2014, 2015. But it just takes a while in some cases, for things to get going and find a house. That's one of the biggest things. So those discussions that we had with our industry, what does a facility look like? What needs to be in the facility? What curriculum are you going to use to train folks that are going to be going out in the workforce? What skills do they need to have? In a roundabout way, we've talked about the difference between manual machining and CNC machining, advanced manufacturing. There was a time we went out and talked to a lot of employers about manual machining. Is it something that's needed? And depending on where you were in that organization, a lot of times when we were talking to people up here, nope, don't do it. It's a dead sport. Nobody's working with it. You're wasting your time. There's no need for manual machining. Don't even buy a machine. But then when we go out on the floor and we're talking to the machine operators, the folks that are running that CNC machine, we're like, hey, what do you think about manual machine? We're thinking about offering a manual machining course. Almost to the technician, they were like, absolutely, have a manual machining course, because the only way I know what this machine is doing is because I've taken that manual class. If you were just trained to be an operator, which we do that, you can be a machine operator. I take the piece, I put it in the mill, and I close the doors, I hit cycle start, and the machine goes to work. Unless someone has come by and really given you some training on what's happening in there, as far as you know, that machine's doing what I've asked it to do. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it's doing what I've asked it to do. But if you've had that background of running the machine manually and doing it yourself, you know what to listen for, you know what to look for. Those chips that are coming off of that piece are telling you a story. Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Am I going too deep? Am I going too shallow? So reading the chips is part of that story that comes along in there. So again, that's how the community helped us create the entire program that we have downstairs right now. But it doesn't end there. We have advisory meetings in which we get together again with our industry partners from around the region, in some cases around the state, that will, if they can't be here physically, then they'll come in over a Teams meeting, and they give us input. What we're really finding now that we've had time to get out a couple of graduates and they're getting out into the field and they're working, I can now ask an employer, hey, did they come through the door needing the information relevant to come through and start working for you? And so far, everybody's like, yeah, we're going down the right path. And we just need to, what do we want our next step to be? We need to figure out what we want our next step to be. So officially, we meet twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring semester. Really, I give them an update of hey, this is where we are. This is how many people we have. These are how many graduates we've had. But this really is an industry driven conversation. So, yep, we have an agenda we go through. My co-chair is from an industry here in town. He and I do everything from build the agenda together to hold the meeting together.
So who sits on these advisory committees?
Most everybody is local employer. We also work with Manufacturing Works out of the University of Wyoming. They have an office here on campus, and we work with them as well. And they try to attend every meeting they can if they're not out doing other great things. So again, I think it's really important to understand it's not just LCCC. It's coming up with this plan of attack on how to do things. We're working hand in hand and side by side with our local industry partners.
So you're not really deep into how long the AMC's been around, right? You've run a couple of boot camps at this point. You've had one full credit diploma cycle. How often would, based on feedback from the advisory council, how often would you update your curriculum or make changes?
Constantly,
Constantly.
constantly.
Yeah.
Uh, if you were to talk to our instructor that taught the very first boot camp, he's been our same instructor for all 5 boot camps, and he actually teaches our credit program for us as well. Um, it's just like everything else. It's something new. So when we were setting up for that first boot camp, we met, and we met, then we met again. Okay, these are the topics we're going to go through. These are the skills we want. It's like, yep, we got the world by the tail. Let's go. And then training starts. It's like, oh man, we didn't think about this, or we should have added that. So we're always massaging. We're always morphing or adding or taking away or doing something to make the next program better. So it is a continuous improvement process. If you were to go ask the same person right now, hey, take your look at your first boot camp to where we are now. How do you feel? And could I ask him that question quite often? Uh, and for those that have been in any training role, it's like, yep, I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I am an instructor. I know all there is to know. You do until someone asks the first question. And normally a question is why. So, and that's great. I mean, that's what we're here for. But by more students asking why, it's like, I need to add that question into my next class, next time I do this. So we're always asking, how can we make it better? So, and we bring those points to our advisory committee when we get together. And we have at least 2, if not 3 of our advisory members that are so active in our courses, they will come out while the students are in session. They'll talk with the students. Hey, what are y'all working on this week? How'd you get to the point where you do? Can you tell me your process that you had to go through? So really it's kind of validating what we're doing, but then it's also validating to the student that, man, hey, they're teaching me this stuff for a reason. So yeah, it's all great. And it's always great to see that.
That's fantastic. So you've talked about how these members were integral in figuring out which kinds of equipment to have on the floor. Talked about how they helped drive the curriculum. Do you have any specific examples where they helped change your course, either through curriculum or through specific pieces of equipment?
Probably the first thing that comes to my mind right now, and it's outside of the CNC equipment realm. But if folks haven't been out to the facility, please call me, make an appointment, swing by, and any one of myself or the instructors will give you a tour of the facility. But we have a piece of equipment down there. It's called a Smart Sim, and the sim is computer integrated manufacturing. So one of the things that I was asked to bring on board to Southeastern Wyoming and LCCC, it's called, again, Industry 4.0. A lot of people still think we're back in the old days of the Industrial Revolution. Well, the Industrial Revolution's always been there, and now we're up to Industry 4.0. And What we have downstairs is actually a group of 6 computers and 6 robots that are acting as an entire manufacturing facility. So students will do everything from, load what we call the warehouse, this automated storage and retrieval system. So someone has got to send, yep, pallet 12 has this piece of equipment on it. And but then we'll go through, we have and there it's all robotic and it's all pretty much automatic. So again, people will go through and program, I want you to make this, that, the other. Then you can go pull a piece, or the robots, the system will go pull a piece out of the warehouse, send it down the line a little bit because it's all a conveyor system all the way around. And we can do robotic turning.
Oh,
So the robot will take a piece off the assembly line, pull it towards the lathe or the turning center. The door opens up on its own. The robot will reach in, put the piece in. The jaws will close around that piece. Robot leaves, door closes, and it'll lathe out whatever piece you were wanting. We also have robotic milling machine down there. Same thing. We have robotic laser engraving. We have robotic welding downstairs, and then we have a build robot. So the build robot will actually take bits, pieces, and parts that have been made on the entire conveyor system and put it together for you, to include putting fasteners on. It has its own quality control station that it'll do its own quality control. If it's bad, it gets thrown in the trash. If it's good, it gets sent back to the warehouse, and now hey, pallet 12 now has a completed part on it. So that was, probably one of the more recent things that, like, "Hey, have you thought about this?" So, "Nope, let's go take a look." And that's how we got here.
I'm sure you guys already knew that robots make a lot of the cars and everything else in the country. You've heard Michael Stevens talk about AI, and there we go. Terminator's on its way. It's starting to build itself.
We have the beginnings of Skynet downstairs. So so
Oh, that's fantastic. So you talked about how a lot of these industry partners, or at least some of them, will come out from time to time and actually interact with students. Do some of these interactions lead to internships or job placements?
a lot of job placements come out of that, and it is, it's interesting to see the different classes, and I think they may have been they're starting to talk to one another, and good on them. Because at the beginning, when we're doing our intro to manufacturing course, we're like, "Hey, this is what you're getting yourselves into. Here's some of the local employers. You know, we're gonna try to have you interview ready when we come out of here." They'll call the employers. "Hey, I'm in the class. Are you hiring anybody?" And sometimes they can go ahead and get hired while they're still a student. And what I like about it, again, these employers are on our advisory committees, and they will tell the students, like, "You can, yep, I'll bring you on board. You can work here, but you got to complete your program."
Fantastic.
Mm.
So I think I can probably guess the answer, but these employers are involved. They're spending a lot of their own time helping to shape the course, guide the course, come out and potentially mentor some of these students. But what's the business getting out of it? What's their return? Why would more people want to get involved?
Oh goodness, you may or may not have heard that there is a shortage of employees.
I think I've heard that at least
Uh,
once. Yeah.
it was in the small print somewhere on the back page of some paper that um, we need more workers in the field. So one of the things that really kind of drove the birth of the AMMC of manufacturing here in southeastern Wyoming was, our president sits on the local leads board, and people would potential employers would look to move to Cheyenne in southeastern Wyoming, and one of the questions they would ask, "Well, how are you gonna train my workforce? How would you make sure I have enough employees coming along?" Well, now he can say, "I'll tell you how. Not only can I tell you, but I can show you." Just this morning, I had a meeting with a company that's looking to relocate to southeastern Wyoming and bring 25 jobs with them. And we're one of the final 2, so, locations that they're looking. I was able to take them and go into the lab, and we had students that were down there turning pieces of metal, and they could see it. it wasn't just me through a phone call or a Teams call or something like that. Hey, I have this thing, I have this facility, and if you were here, you'd be able to see. No, we can take them and show them what kind of equipment, what kind of steps and procedures that we can do. So the investment that the employer is making, employees, so they can come out and they can talk. Now we try to open that up to everybody. You know, we don't say, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's got to be an employer in Laramie County. It's got to be an employer in Wyoming." We have people out in northern Colorado that come up and tour and talk to our students and those types of things. That way, it doesn't look like LCCC is just a training for one company. We want to make sure that we're being fair across the board. So uh, that's why, you know, when I mentioned that it seems like the students are starting to talk from one class to the other, is from the institution, from my perspective, from the instructor's perspective, we don't say, you ought to go to that company. Because then it just kind of gives a bad vibe, I think. Because if it wasn't for the taxpayers of Laramie County a few years ago when they passed the sixth penny, the taxpayers voted and paid for the construction of the facility that we're sitting in. So it'd be really, I think, bad of us to go through and say, "Yeah, you ought to go over here or go over there." Let's let them make those decisions.
So some of the stuff you'd have down there is pretty cutting edge.
Mhm.
As potential employers, business partners, council members, et cetera, come through, have any of them gotten ideas saying, wow, if I had something like that, I could do this? Are they getting ideas just from what they see us doing?
Absolutely. So there are, as you mentioned, there are any number of machines down there. We have, goodness, we have seven CNC mills, seven CNC lathes. We have a 5-axis machine, an EDM, which is electrical discharge or electrical displacement machine, depending on which website you look at. We have a mill downstairs that has a robot with it. So we can go through and program the robot as one unit, program the mill as another unit, and they'll talk to one another.
Wow.
So that was something that we've had an employer say, I need to look at this because again, finding employees is not always the easiest thing in the world to do. And now that we're looking to reshore between 1 and 2 million manufacturing jobs across the country, yeah, there's gonna be a need for this for facilities such as this, but, to answer your question, we've had someone look at our robot setup downstairs like, I'm gonna look at this and see what I can do with it."
Not only are employees hard to find, they're expensive, right? That's part of what's driven this revolution toward going to robots and AI and everything else is employees are hard to find. And when we find them, they're expensive. Companies are always looking to increase their bottom line, which means that technology is often the way to make it happen.
Technology does definitely help. Automation helps with that. You'd mentioned AI a little bit earlier. We've been kinda working with our AI shop here on campus on, "Hey, how do we take artificial intelligence and build it into and specifically the smart sim, how can we bring these 2 together? How can we take ideas, bring in a little bit of technology from over here in the AI world, bring it into the robots and add to another technology level? How can we bring that all together for who knows what?"
And that's why there's multiple levels, right? Just because at some point the robot may be able to take away the entry level, there's that next level that you're still training folks to walk into.
Sure.
And there's the engineers above that, which again, if you're coming through the program, you're getting your associates, you may decide to continue your math journey and
Yep.
move into the engineering side. So folks shouldn't be disheartened. There's still jobs for you, regardless of how many robots are coming in the street.
Well, and we actually, part of our training c is to train folks how to be that robot person. How do I tell the robot what it needs to do? Because, I could have a robot sitting here and it's like, "Yeah, I have robots in the shop." Well, that's cool. What does it do? Well, I don't have anybody here to tell me what it does. It just sits there and looks pretty. No, we have people come in that we can train. Okay, this is how you get the robot to do what you want it to do. So even though we might be replacing some jobs down here, we're creating other jobs over there.
So in that, I heard not only can we teach you how to make the widgets, we can also teach you how to program those robots so that than tell the robot how to make the widget.
Absolutely. So when it gets dangerous and when we tell the robots how to build other robots, I don't know where we're going.
All right. So I'm sure there's still businesses out there that aren't part of your advisory committee. How do they join? How do they help drive where this goes?
So there's a couple of different ways to do that. Easiest, I think, probably is just to call me. And you can call me 307-432-1687. I'll be more than happy to talk with you, let you know how you can come on board. The other way, and it's actually just as easy, we're part of what we call a High Altitude Manufacturing Partnership, or HAMP for short. And that is not just Laramie County, but it's Albany County. It's a couple other outlying areas. And this really is a group that has been brought together for manufacturing. How do we meet the needs of the community? Okay, well, yep, we got our local advisory committee. What else is out there? What role can we play? So we just met with them last week before last, and what we're going to do is they also have meetings. I think they meet once a quarter. So what we're going to do is line up our fall and spring advisory committees, because like I mentioned, we meet twice a year, to line up with their HAMP meetings. So now the HAMP will be a more active participant in our local advisory.
Fantastic.
It's a good deal for everyone.
Any parting thoughts you'd like people to know about advisory committees, how they can help drive the process, the students, etc.?
Sure, absolutely, I do. If you ever drive by the college and you look out there on our front porch, it says Laramie County Community College. We are here for the community, and we want to make sure that the community members have an opportunity to interact with us. One of the darndest things, I still hear it after almost 2.5 years of doing this, we'll have folks come in, we'll give them a tour, they're blown away, and what's the most heart-wrenching thing they can say? I never knew this place existed. And we hear that over and over and over again. I remember listening to Dr. Schaefer speak once, and he had mentioned that when he's talking about the college as a whole, and people will be like, "Oh, you're the best kept secret." He's like, "I don't want to be a secret. I want people to know about us." So the same thing with the AMMC. And I've mentioned before, we're here for our community, our students, and our industry. Please come out and see. This is your facility. Come out and visit us.
Fantastic. All right. Well, you've heard Dave's invitation. Call him up, make an appointment, come out and see the place. Whether you're a student, whether you're a business, I'm sure he is happy to have you at any point. So please give him a phone call. And that's a wrap on this episode of Beyond the Classroom. Until next time, please like, subscribe, find us on pretty much all major podcast platforms. We'll see you next time.
I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow today.